Welcome to Bat Therapy, mental health through the lens of comics and film. Be a fly on the wall or a bat in the cave, listening in on a friendship built out of a love for talking Batman, comics, and the everyday struggle to achieve mental health and happiness.
We're your hosts, clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown and educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and social media and find our Patreon at patreon.com/battherapy.
This podcast is about providing education and understanding and is not a replacement for mental health treatment or support. If you're needing help, go to bat-therapy.com for resources.
So what are we talking about tonight?
Oh, you're going to make me say it? Okay,
Yes.
I'm going to get it right. Daredevil, Born Again.
Yes, like
Okay.
a Christian.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Maybe that'll help me remember. So, okay, for listeners, I keep calling it Daredevil Rebirth because I am apparently so into DC that I can't remember anything else. So you guys can keep count of how many times I might accidentally call it Rebirth. We'll find out. But Born Again, yeah, the whole Christian thing. Maybe that'll help me.
Yeah.
There you go.
It was good.
I enjoyed it.
was good.
I have thoughts.
Yes.
But I enjoyed it until the last, 2 episodes.
So one thing I'll say
Spoilers.
is,
Duh.
yes,
Just saying it
it's,
now.
yeah, spoilers. We can't break it down without, have we ever done anything non-spoiler here?
I don't think so, but,
No.
when it's new, I just want to,
No.
just in case, a new listener.
It's not that new, right? It's like,
I mean, what, a month or two? Was the last episode?
yeah, but it started in March. It started
Yeah.
in March.
We kept planning to record this and delaying, so maybe it's been longer than that, and I'm just losing track.
So this started in March, but to be fair, it's a continuation of a show that started in 2015. So
Sure. And they expect you to remember some things, man.
I was going to say, they do a really good job jumping right back into where they left off. Which I loved, because one of the things that I was upset about when they were like, oh, the Netflix show is ending. I was really upset because I was enjoying this 80% of the storyline. All the stuff with the hand, didn't care about it. Whatever. All the stuff they did with the lecture, not crazy about it. Whatever. Even the Defenders, could have been better.
Okay, what did you like?
The actual show, Daredevil. I enjoyed all the stuff with him and Fisk. I enjoyed all the stuff with him and the Punisher. I enjoyed all the stuff with him and Bullseye.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
Okay.
There was plenty more to like. More to like.
Sure.
Right.
I'll have to go back and calculate percentages. But
yeah.
So I completely forgot about Bullseye and that whole thing until he came in a little bit into this one, and I was like, wait, what's going on? Because I mean, come on, that's you're expecting me to remember a lot.
We've been through a whole pandemic and 2 presidents since it then.
Exactly. Come on, that pre-pandemic brain, I don't even know where that brain went. I misplaced that long ago. So that was a little tricky for me because they didn't do any, in past seasons, blah, 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 blah. Now
Did they not do that? They didn't even give us that?
I don't think so.
Oh, wow. That's funny.
If they did, I did not pay attention, and that's my fault.
Well, it's out there on YouTube somewhere. Give me just a
refresher.
refresher.
If I was smart, I would have done one of those YouTube people that just, goes through all the big pieces first.
As someone that went through high school English with Cliff Notes, it's one of those things where I was like, hey, I know someone out there on YouTube did the righteous thing and hooked it up so I can remember.
I was that kid who never used Cliff Notes.
I didn't use Cliff Notes for The Count of Monte Cristo. It was one of the good books we read.
Count of Monte Cristo was good.
Yeah, but Jane Austen, Cliff Notes.
What?
Yep.
I disagree.
Doll's House, Cliff Notes.
I can't remember if I read A Doll's House or not.
To Kill a Mockingbird started with Cliff Notes, got 3 pages in, and I was like, you know what? I think this was readable. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna backtrack. I think
nice.
Yeah. I used Cliff Notes because I didn't like wasting time with something I knew I wouldn't like. But if I got into Cliff Notes and I was like, oh really? Okay. I'll give it a go. Yeah. And so I use Cliff Notes the right way.
So long story short, probably would have been helpful for me to use my YouTube Cliff Notes that are available to me, but seeing as how I never, I
Work
never
smart,
really,
not hard. It's my teaching mantra.
yeah, I did the opposite clearly. So yay me, but it's all right. So aside from that, though, some frantic Wikipediaing,
There you go.
when things came up and I was like, oh, I don't remember. That worked fine.
It gets it done. Yeah,
Yeah, it
solid.
gets it done. And I did really like a lot of the season.
Yes.
I think it petered out in the last like 2 episodes, personally. We can talk about that as we go.
Okay. Okay.
And I have issue. I loved certain developments, and then they just like tossed them away and were like, okay, now we're just like skipping stuff and shifting to the end, particularly with someone we have to talk about, which is Dr. Heather Glenn, the psychiatrist who does therapy, couples therapy, in fact, with the Fisks and dates Daredevil. Well, Matt.
You know, it's funny because she's not Matt's therapist, is she? Which
Correct.
I
She is not.
loved. I'm like, finally.
Which is great. I was like, oh, thank God.
Finally.
Let me tell you, I was nervous. I'm not going to lie.
I thought about you as I was watching. I'm like, oh, good. Oh, good. He's not her patient. Good.
I know. That did make me a little nervous. But things get just get a little weird later. I don't know. She doesn't do anything that's technically unethical anywhere. There's not really anything where I like raise an eyebrow per se in terms of what she's doing, but she grates on my nerves near the end. Most of the season, I'm like, okay, I'm with this. Like, I'm feeling it. In the last 2 episodes, I was like, I can't stand you. You're so irritating. And that had more to do with her lack of self-reflection and growth, and blaming Matt for not being self-reflective when obviously she was not doing it herself. So the hypocrisy was getting to me quite a bit.
I feel like in the world of therapists, whenever you meet other therapists, it's not really a broad spectrum on how you feel about them. It's one of those things, you meet another therapist and either it's like, we're cool, or it's like, nope, I'm going to walk the other way.
Think so?
You don't think so?
No.
I mean, you can manage. So here's the thing. I think what's difficult about possibly being friends with a therapist is that you all know how to conduct a conversation with anyone.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
true.
walking out of it, it's like, does this person hate me? Or do they like me?
See,
Or am I their next case study?
See, therapists don't worry about that because, one, we want to leave the work at work, and like you get tired. I was in a training earlier today, and we were talking about how you use so much patience, self-reflection, compassion, unconditional positive regard, like, unconditionally trying to support other people during your work, that when you go home, sometimes it's actually a relief to like be impatient, be like the harsher versions of yourself. And so like the people in your life in some ways might get the worst version of you because you've spent all of these other pieces to a certain degree. So I feel like in some ways you're taking off the persona, and you're a little harsher around the edges, and you can kind of relax with each other because you get it. And so some people, I'm sure teachers joke about certain things that are teacher specific. You can kind of like joke and talk about things and use your shorthand and all that. If there is someone who doesn't turn it off, I think therapists spot it pretty quickly. And yeah, those are people I'm less likely to kind of hang out with. Another thing too is like, whether it's a therapist or someone else, I think for me, I do so much of it at work that if people need a lot in everyday life, I'm like, oh, I'm spent. I'm sorry.
So here's something that's fun. We've talked so many times about how superheroes approach therapists and have to hide who they really are.
Yeah.
This time it's Fisk and his wife. I did love that twist.
So
it's like,
interesting.
villains hiding who they really are, but legitimately working through couples therapy.
Right.
No matter how many people they have to kill, they do it with love. It's for each other. It's beautifully toxic.
The thing is, I'm pausing because I'm trying to decide if I'm forgetting something that makes this untrue, but you're talking about how purely toxic it is. So I think there's this poignant piece with the couples therapy. And I think she could have played this a little bit different, and I can go into it a little bit if we want to.
Okay.
But
That's what the podcast is for. Absolutely go into it.
okay, so Dr. Glenn does a great thing where she's getting some red flags or some concerning signs that Fisk might have some violent tendencies or some manipulative pieces to him, things like that. Potentially some like aggressive leanings. And she pulls, to her credit, as she should, she pulls his wife aside separately and checks in with her, which is great. And I think that one of the things that highlights is, interestingly, how the toxicity that they seem to have isn't necessarily targeted toward each other. His wife does not feel intimidated. She is not concerned. I mean, they lie to each other, and they're, it's kind of like, okay, so I'm like watching Gossip Girl right now. Don't ask me why. I just needed something ridiculous. And they're kind of like Chuck and Blair, where, I don't know if you've seen that show, but there are certain portrayals of couples where they might not do great things to each other, but they get it. It like fits their personalities, so they don't take it personally, and the toxicity kind of goes outward to everyone around them. So that's what seems to happen with them, which is interesting.
You're watching Gossip Girl.
Yeah. Okay. What can I say?
Okay, we're gonna come back to that,
dude.
After we start recording.
Therapists need to watch trashy shows.
They don't need to. There's better trash to watch.
I watch other trash. Don't you worry.
Okay.
don't you worry. No, therapists have to watch trash because, like, you can just unleash all sorts of like thoughts and ideas on it.
I promise I was listening to you. I was just taken aback.
It's okay. It's okay. If it makes you feel any better, I'd only seen like a few episodes before now, and I was just looking for a Netflix show to binge. So
have a list. It's better than Gossip Girl.
Getting back on track, though. So the one thing I would have changed, and we probably brought it up remember when we did the Double Date episode, the DC Double Date comic for Superman, Lois Lane.
Oh, yeah, it was great. Love that one.
Batman and Serena.
Selena.
So Selena. Wow. See, too much Gossip Girl. No. That was sad.
Don't edit this out, Bill. Don't edit it out. Keep it here.
How many listeners do you think we've lost because they're too ashamed of me now?
None. They love me.
So we did a psychology spotlight about couples therapy after that episode. So I probably went into it there. And if people are interested in more couples therapy in depth when you're listening to this episode, definitely recommend going back to that one.
That was a great one.
That was a really good one. Usually, or oftentimes, when people do couples therapy, they meet with the couple together, of course, but they also initially during like the intake process where you're gathering information, and potentially even periodically throughout the time, you meet with each person separately, individually as well. And so part of that is because, let's be real, you're not always saying everything that's on your mind if the person's like right there. So you can get better information, a fuller picture of things if you do a balance of both. But another thing that it can be helpful for is safety screening. And so in this case, she like pulled her to the side and, wasn't making it obvious what it was about. But Fisk is Fisk. So like, I don't know. I feel like he potentially could have guessed what she might be pulling her aside for. So if he was, being, shall we say, not wonderful toward his wife, maybe he might have picked up on something. So having those individual appointments could have been like a sneakier way, an easier way to check in on some of that. Because obviously maybe not obviously. So if there is intimate partner violence, if there's a lot of manipulation and abuse of some sort, couples therapy is probably not a good fit because you have to have a safe space and you have to know people are going home to a safe space because there's a lot of tough stuff you're talking about.
And to be fair, they weren't violent towards each other.
Right. Exactly. Not at any point I can recall.
He kept the guy alive, her side guy. He kept him alive because she asked him to. He did that for her. And then they got to that point where it's like, hey, if we're going to move forward and be together, here he is. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
And he got involved with the wrong chick. That's all there is to it. But I am just obsessed with Wilson Fisk. I love him. I love his corruption. I love the way he talks. And it's one of those things
Wait,
where
do it.
you get on his bad side and you know, like the way that they filmed this show, you know that something bad is going to happen to the person giving him this bad news. He just delivers the line in a very peaceful way. It's like, oh, Mr. Fisk, I'm sorry. We're out of the chicken McNugget sauce that you wanted. And he's just like, well, it would seem we are at a standstill. And at that point, it's like, that cashier is about to die. I would just have the barbecue sauce. Continue with your day. And then he just storms off. And later on, that entire McDonald's gets burned to the ground.
Oh yeah, he would always come back around. So Fisk is very interesting in this because it comes back to this idea that his motives aren't entirely evil. Like they're not entirely self-serving and violent, and yet they're never fully separate from it either.
He does have this thing where he's like, I'm going to save New York.
He does want to save New York.
As an evil kingpin.
And yes, and he also wants to X, Y, and Z on the side.
Trust me, it's going to be great. Like, it's one of those things where it does seem like it's not all about, we're going to get filthy rich. He does legitimately, I think, love the city of New York. He's like, this is my spot. He's
trying to legitimize things as much as he can to make this all work from a political sense.
I like him better than current politicians. That's all I will say. Take it however you will. I like him better than current politicians. I would, if it were between him and other politicians, I might vote for Wilson Fisk. I don't have a Kingpin t-shirt. I could have one. I don't know. Just something about him he is charismatic in weird ways. Like the stuff that he pulled when he just stops traffic, fix this manhole right now. And I'm like, yes. There's a manhole at the Sonic Drive-In down the road from me. If you drive in it, you're going to end up wherever that horse is on the Never-Ending Story. It's such a deep hole. It is such a deep hole. And I'm like, it's just existed. And it's gotten bigger and bigger over like the last 3 years to the point that I'm like, man, it'd be nice to get some onion rings. I only have one car though. Like I'm like, man, could have used Wilson Fisk for that.
Yeah. But then there's, inevitably too, the like, okay, well, what red tape did he skip that's necessary?
A lot.
Exactly. So
the red tape annoys him.
It does. And look, hey, red tape sucks. It annoys us all, or most of us, if not everyone. And the initial laying out of the red tape is there for a reason. Now, there are all these things that get in the way and make things cumbersome and make things not work. And so sometimes we need to find a way to get away with things.
Mm-hmm.
And he's talking about major construction of a road. And it was just one of those things where it's like, okay, I mean, they can do all this, but you got to wonder all of like, what does that ripple into? What else isn't getting fixed because of that? Or what mistakes do they make because they didn't check something that they needed to check?
And it's interesting because the thing about Wilson Fisk, he comes from a criminal world. It's his way or the highway. There is no red tape. There's just what he says. And now he's in this world where he's saying, hey, whatever I say still goes. I just got to figure out how to work around it, how to do it. I can just hire. I don't have my normal thugs, but I can get every criminal cop in the city. And now I have new legal thugs. Like it was kind of brilliant the way that he went about doing things and how he was anti-vigilante and like, hey, we don't need them. Like even the way that he was wording things, it was like, hey,
it was like scarily genius.
It was
how he focused on the vigilantes.
It was brilliant.
And then he had some very
Yeah.
ice seeming
Yeah.
police
Yeah.
officers that he pulled together. Honestly, some of it made me very uneasy because there's some obvious analogies,
Yeah.
crossovers to real life these days. But
Y'all can't see me right now. I'm
um,
making a face.
he's making a face because he's not an ICE agent, so you can see his face. Anyway, you know what's interesting to me that I just realized though? So I think we're at least 15 minutes in, and we have not talked about Matt Murdock at all.
It's fine. It's fine. Look, we're on a roll. It's been a while since we've just been able to just boom, jump straight into it. And yeah, Matt Murdock is there. He is there.
Is Matt Murdocking?
He
Well,
is.
okay. Well, okay.
We'll get there.
Oh, and when you talk about the fact that like how the freaking show started,
Okay.
make me mad.
First things first. Ben Poindexter, Bullseye. My goodness, what an absolutely unhinged character. Such an unhinged character. And he comes there, and that first episode is absolute pandemonium because he's just killing anyone that he sees, just winding Daredevil up. Like that's what he does. He's like winding Daredevil up, and he does the biggest wind up of all, taking out Foggy.
I could not believe that they killed off Foggy.
I was very shocked because in the comic it's Karen Page. Yeah.
I would have preferred to kill her off.
I thought she was going to be in the show more. She
was barely in it anyway. You might as well kill her off.
I thought that she was going to be in this more. I really did. But yeah, they did it to Foggy.
Well, and the thing is like killing off Foggy, Karen, like, she's not enough of a tension with Matt in terms of like like literally Foggy before he dies is like, I keep being afraid that you're going to put the uniform back on. Like there's actually a tension there because of like, he pulls to the forefront the tension between vigilante and not vigilante. So I would have loved to have him around for this season where there's the whole crux of all that happening. Karen just kind of like leans into Matt's line of thinking.
And I think that she'll be in the story more. This almost felt like a second coming, like a second origin story, born again, right?
Rebirth, if you will.
Him going back and putting on the costume, right? That other side is still there. The rage never goes away.
Yeah.
That's one thing. It's like there's certain superheroes here that we have talked about on this show. Honestly, I'll separate it easy. There's the Supermans and the Batmans. The Supermans, that's like, I'm just trying to fight the good fight and help people. And the Batman, who have this rage and they need it. They need to do this almost as an outlet. Daredevil falls into that category. Matt Murdock is in that category. And Absolutely. So all this bottled up rage he had from Foggy's death was just sitting there.
Yeah.
It was just sitting there. And he was a ticking time bomb. He was a ticking time bomb. When you first see him fight, and it's those corrupt cops in there trying to get to the person that was going to testify at White Tiger's trial.
Yep.
And he finally snaps. I'm like, good. I'm glad it wasn't on a barista that messed up his coffee. Like, which I don't think he would do that, but like he was a pressure cooker.
Oh yeah. Well,
right?
I mean, he tried to kill Bullseye.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that was in the moment.
I don't know how it didn't work.
That did confuse
Bullseye
me too.
had plot armor. That was what that was.
Yeah, that made no sense to me that he was alive. But so I mean, that was in the moment. So that was more of an impulsive move. And granted, he was fighting again when it came to those cops. So there's like still like an impulsive piece. But I agree with you. That was more the anger building and the tension that was there. And he was finally getting that physical, violent release that he so craves for things. Yeah. And of course, because these are like comic type storylines, he ends up with someone who is intrigued by superheroes and vigilantes and what's behind the mask. And she had some really great questions, Heather Glenn, his his girlfriend slash the therapist in this whole storyline. So she did have some intriguing questions, like how much of it is a person being like, how much does a mask make it so that you can truly fulfill, you know, this need and be able to like become something more, versus how much can it be an excuse to allow you to get away with things that you can't get away with the mask gone. So
Mm-hmm.
she had all these intriguing questions about it, but it's like, of course he ends up with someone who's like, you know, wanting to delve into the vigilante stuff some
Yeah.
more.
Like, yeah.
So I thought that was funny, because I feel like that's always a part of these storylines. Like they always end up with the reporter or the whoever's going to get them into trouble.
Yeah. Or yeah, like, oh yeah, I'm dating Wilson Fisk, psychologist. Like that's like, come on, like
To be
Matt,
fair, he
rough
dated
coin
her,
toss.
and then Wilson
That's
Fisk
true. That's true.
found her.
Yeah.
And I don't think they did it to toy with him. I
He
think
thinks
that part was
so.
a coincidence.
He thinks that it
Oh,
happened for that
yeah.
reason. He was definitely Matt definitely was just like, he's using you to get to me and da 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 da. Oh, but why? I can't explain why, because I can't tell you that I'm Daredevil, but just trust me. Which, from her point of view, that has to sound so narcissistic, right? Like that has to sound incredibly like self-centered. So narcissistic isn't necessarily the word, maybe, but definitely very
Yeah,
self-centered. Like, really?
yeah, definitely self-centered, and I can't see outside of my own views
Right.
on this person who I've built a grudge against. So, okay, let's start talking about my issue with her. So I think that they were doing all this really great stuff with her. They started this, so she's an author. She's written, I think it was a trauma book. I tried to zoom in on the screen, but it was too fuzzy. But it was some trauma book that she wrote as a psychiatrist. And she's trying to come up with her next book idea. And she's thinking about doing vigilantes and talking about the different things. And so at one point, she's asking Matt, like, hey, you've actually been a lawyer connected to vigilantes. Is there any way you can help me find some people? Da da da. So she's kind of like picking at the borders here. Then he starts shifting into vigilantism again. And he also, so around the same time, he's at the bank, and Miss Marvel's dad is there, and he's like saving him and all the people in the bank, right? But from her perspective, he's gone through this big trauma of being held up at a bank, could have died. She thinks he's a normal dude. So she sees him change, and all of a sudden he's aloof and he's withdrawn and all this. So she starts talking to him like, you're not processing your trauma. And he's probably not, because there's all the foggy stuff you mentioned. But he's also like shifting into being a vigilante without telling her. So there's all this complicated stuff. And she's trying to get him like, hey, I'm not your therapist, like, but there's some stuff you need to work on here, and it's getting in the way of us. And there's all this interesting stuff building. Then they throw in her patient that she's treating, who himself turns into being a serial killer, who some people call him a vigilante. I forget his name. But then she has the patient who like has been killing all these people, and then he tries to kill her, and then Daredevil comes and saves her. But then afterwards, she's traumatized, and then she's the one who's not processing her trauma and instead is very reactive, and all of a sudden is anti-vigilante, says, I saved myself. Okay, technically, yes, you like shot the person, but also I think Daredevil helped you a little bit there, honey. But then all of a sudden she like shifts her mindset about all these things and says vigilantes are completely bad and wrong. And then like doesn't care about Matt's concerns about Fisk at all. And it's like, sure, I'll jump in with Fisk, even though Matt's been telling her from day one how criminal he's been, and she's had these concerns about Fisk in sessions about how he talks about, I don't know, the last like episode or two, it just feels like, girl, you just need to sit down with a therapist and kind of work some things out before you make some major decisions right now, because you literally just barely survived your patient, who also told you, hey, thanks, you helped me fulfill myself in becoming a serial killer, and now I'm going to kill you. That's gonna mess with your head. You stop what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like,
pause.
You quit all your jobs.
Yeah. Pause.
You quit life. You pause, and you do so much therapy.
Yes.
I don't even know what you do at that point. But like, she doesn't. The very things that she's getting upset with Matt about, she starts playing out herself, which is like very human hypocrisy that we all have. But it just, it got to me. It irritated me. I was like, girl, you need to You literally just had a serial killer, and now you're like, yeah, Fisk, let's do this thing. I'll work for you.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, honey,
Okay.
you are in trouble. So, yeah, I didn't love, because they had such interesting stuff brewing, I feel like, for all those episodes. And then that wasn't the only thing that all of a sudden felt like rushed and shifted the last like 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But,
well, and I think one of the things that shifted the last 2 episodes too was a man by the name of Frank Castle.
I was gonna bring him up. Yep, Punisher. There he is.
Yeah, Jonathan Bernthal just steals the show whenever he's on screen, and he's
so good.
He's so good, and he does such a good job showing the vast difference between just Matt and Frank.
That is true.
Just the vast difference between them, and it's
I love he's just like, just kill him.
Yeah.
Just so frank about it. Just kill him.
Easy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're dirty cops. And I also, oh my gosh, one of my favorite things that they did with him, and this was something that's out of a comic too. It's out of a comic too. There are these cops that are obsessed with the Punisher, that are just yeah, man, you're our hero. And he's like, what the hell?
They did not read the Cliff Notes.
Yeah. In the comic, I think he says something about the lines like, you want a hero? Go follow Steve Rogers. I'm not your hero. And he beats the hell out of him. And it's great. Like, I loved it. It was wonderful. And
it was a very interesting, because it was corrupt. It was folks that were corrupt that were following him. And it's like, oh, the irony.
It's like, oh no, you are not, you don't know who you're talking to right now.
He's like, I want to kill you so bad right now, but Matt
and he's gonna
standing right next to me.
But even when Matt was right there in the kitchen with him, Matt was like, I'm gonna knock him out. And Frank was like, I'm gonna knock him out with shotgun bullets to their head. Like, he was not holding back at all. And Matt's like, please, can you stop? And Frank's just, no, I cannot. And just such, and they both have such rage, and it's so good, because you see different spectrums of this bottled up rage. You see the Wilson Fisk bottled up rage that's holding it together, and you also know he's also a person that is capable of pulling an Oberyn Martell on an ex-police chief, like, at any given moment, which was brutal. Way brutal. I didn't think that was something they would do on Disney Plus. I was shocked. I loved it, but I was shocked. I was like, ooh,
I did not love it.
That was brutal. I think I loved it just because I was worried the entire time that it wouldn't be the nitty-gritty Daredevil show that we had on Netflix. And so when they did that, I was like, all right, yep. They did it. They did it. And so you have his bottled up rage. You clearly have Matt Murdock's bottled up rage. And then you have Frank Castle. I don't even think it's bottled up.
No.
I don't really think it's bottled up. He's just like...
So, with Frank Castle, he's lost everything that for him was worth bottling up his rage for. So,
okay.
So anger, let's talk anger versus aggression.
Ooh.
So, being afraid to feel angry is a very common thing that you see in therapy, this hesitation to feel anger, because unfortunately, a lot of people who come to therapy have some sort of trauma in their past related to like violence and things. So you have people that often are concerned about being angry, but really what they're most worried about is it turning to aggression. And so with aggression, we're talking about behavior. We're talking about the reaction to how you feel. Anger is an emotion, and everyone has that emotion. If you are listening and you're like, I never feel angry, you might be suppressing it in some ways, and that has other side effects to it. So that might be something to consider. If you're like, well, that's weird, I never feel angry. Like, everybody feels some sort of anger. Not everyone has it to the level we're talking about here. We're not all Frank Castles. We're not all Matt Murdocks. We're not all William Fisks. But even like my steady level-headed husband, who is like type B and super chill, does get angry on occasion, right? So we get angry. It's one of the emotions we have. It's meant to actually be adaptive. It tells us something. A lot of times it tells us something needs to change. There's an injustice happening, or we're being encroached upon in some way, and it tends to push us to like try and change something.
Mm-hmm.
Aggression, those are behaviors. And so when it comes to aggressing, you are actually negatively affecting the people around you. You're essentially making it so that what matters to you is what matters, period, at the cost of the people around you. It can be with words, it can be with be physical, it can be contact, or it can be like threats and manipulation. A lot of the things we see in the show. So we see all these different versions. Fisk uses a lot of like manipulative stuff a lot of the times,
Mm-hmm.
but then he gets super violent sometimes.
Right.
Matt doesn't tend to use the manipulation stuff. That's why we tend to see him as a healthier character
Mm-hmm.
and less imposing on people. But yeah, if you get on the wrong side of him, that violence comes out. The thing with Frank, so there can be repercussions to how we respond to our anger. And for him, all the people he really cared about died. He has new people in his life now, and I think that is changing things for him. It would be really interesting to have a show focus on him now
Mm-hmm.
that he's developing more relationships again. But he definitely has this sense to him, like, if I die, I die. I don't care how other people perceive me, what they think of me. If I die, I die. This is the thing I'm going to do. I'm going to hone my anger toward aggressing against these specific people who I believe deserve to essentially get what they give. And so, yeah, I think he purposefully just has less of a filter in a lot of ways versus Fisk, who's just as aggressive. But I think part of why he forces himself to make so many things so subtle because he wants to be perceived in certain ways, and he wants people to build trust. He wants to have certain kinds of relationships and things.
Mm-hmm.
And so he can't just like go outright like Frank Castle does.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got a lot of aggressive people in this show who, let's say, don't have the healthiest response to their anger all of the time. So here's the thing. Heather, Matt's girlfriend, I
Mm-hmm.
agree with her that he needs to process some stuff and he's got a lot to work on. I think we all agree with that. She didn't know exactly what it was entirely because, he wasn't telling her. But then, ironically, like she ends up someone who also has a lot of things to process through. And instead of doing that, she kind of leaps into the next thing. So, yeah, who knows? Maybe she might end up with her own issues next season.
I definitely think so, simply because of all the issues stemming from her having to kill Muse.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's going to still have some lasting repercussions. The other thing that I wanted to touch on, because we talked about how Matt gave up the life. We talked about how he gave up the life, he walked away from it. And there was a really interesting character they introduced, Hector Ayala, White Tiger, which rest in peace to the actor.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Camar de los Reyes. He actually passed away. Yeah, like right after filming. Like right after filming.
Sad.
Unfortunately, cancer. Yeah, and so it was sad. But he did I loved his character. Because one of the things that I think he did was his character, like White Tiger, he had this opinion of, this is actually who we are. This is actually who we are. And if I can't do it, I don't have a life, which I thought was very different because I think that Matt looks at Daredevil he doesn't look at Daredevil as a hero. I don't think. I think he sees Daredevil almost the way that someone sees that smoking relaxes them, or
I think I think he convinces himself
Yeah, I mean, I
that
think yeah,
he's doing it for the greater good,
I think
but
he
it is
yeah
like a drug for him,
yeah
and
I
that's what
think
Foggy sees.
yeah I think that's what it is. I think he sees it as a drug versus White Tiger. He's not. I don't know if White Tiger saw it as a drug as much as this is who I am.
So now, arguably, it
Hmm.
could be coming from the same place as Matt, which we could then
That's
argue
true.
that it is who he is. I mean, like if you think about how Matt grew up, he really was built into being Daredevil. So, for argument's sake, because I believe also White Tiger, the man behind the mask. I believe his wife at a certain point talked about hadn't he served in the military and gotten back and like struggled a bit once he got back, but that
Yeah, it
is
was
that sounding
something.
familiar?
It was something like that. Maybe I think
He
so.
had some, yeah, he had some story like that where essentially this is him finding his purpose again and a way to, like you said, be able to fulfill something, a need and something that he could help people with. I mean, you know, that's not untrue of Matt. It's just that Matt's just got rage issues. You
Right.
know? So if you took the rage issues out of Matt, then maybe it would be a similar story. And I think that's maybe one of the difficult things with Daredevil is he really is a devil. I mean, like it's such good imagery for him to have because he is doing this good work and he is a good person. I mean, think about the work that he does, the job that he does without the mask on, and
Hmm.
he cares about people. He went through this accident, so he's got all these skills honed and just all these things build up to superhero, but he does end up more vigilante, especially because just the rage and the anger that's built up along with everything else makes him into a violent version. Not quite Fred Castle Punisher. He's
Hmm.
not that far. He hasn't lost as much as Frank. I think if he did, he might turn that corner. But yeah, I think that arguably it is his purpose. It's just that the rage complicates that equation.
And I think part of it too is like you said, he would have turned that corner. I think if anyone else had died besides Foggy, he would have never taken the map suit off. I think it was one of those things where it was like Foggy's last wish for
Yeah,
me to
to honor Foggy, he was
to
trying
to
to.
honor him. He was trying to do it, but at the end of the day, it's like Hell's Kitchen needs more than the cops. Plus, at the same time, it's like, and it's that was one reason, one interesting way that I thought how the season ended. It's like, okay, what do you do when everyone's corrupt?
Mm.
And he walks into that cafe with all the people, like, hey, I'm Daredevil, and I'm gonna need y'all's help fighting. It was very interesting because the thing is, and I think that's the way he should be doing it. It's like,
Mm.
fine, everything's corrupt. We got to do something about it versus this pressure cooker of rage and anger from issues that haven't been dealt with. It's one of those things where it's like, hey, find a happy medium.
Yeah.
Find a happy
It's
medium
also
between White Tiger and Frank Castle.
it's tough though too for him because I mean the brutality of boxing and
Hmm.
and that's not meant to be offensive to boxing, but I mean the bloodied fall down get back up that his dad ingrained into him
Hmm.
is also I think intertwined in a lot of this. And his dad kept getting back up.
Hmm.
I think it was different than how Matt keeps getting back up. So when
Definitely.
his dad kept getting back up, it was this innate like I have to keep going. I have to keep trying. This also desperation for his family and for all these things and wanting to be better. But I feel like for Matt, getting back up is through the anger and through the
Hmm.
rage and that's a tricky piece too because the anger and the rage like you said it's we're not saying be White Tiger because he's a completely different human being and I do think that how he hones the anger is part of how he gets back up. It's also part of why he's in danger of almost killing someone
Hmm.
or being really lucky he didn't kill somebody when he gets into certain situations where White Tiger we don't get the sense that the same thing would happen.
We don't. I'm interested in seeing where they go with it, because Fisk is pushing him. And Fisk is in an interesting place too, because Matt saved his life from Poindexter.
That's
Like,
true.
he saved his life from
Do
Poindexter.
you think Matt woke up in the hospital and was like, why the hell did I do that?
How did I do that? Especially when Fisk immediately tries to kill him in the hospital. Immediately tries to kill him. Oh,
you have those moments in life that you're like, if I could go back, maybe I'd make a different choice.
It's like that art teacher that's like, let me take another look at Hitler's art. Maybe we could
make this work.
Maybe we could work on those brushstrokes. Just maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just, like, can you just imagine this whole scenario? You wake up in the hospital and you're like, I'm so ingrained to help people that I just freaking saved Fisk. Are you kidding me? And then he has sent someone to kill you right then too, just to like rub it in.
Right.
Oh man.
Right. And it's like, and it's Fisk winds everyone up like that though, because he does the same thing to Spider-Man. There's a comic where he like has Aunt May. He gets a sniper to shoot Aunt May.
Jeez.
And I don't think she dies, but Peter, like, Spider-Man breaks into prison and beats the hell out of Wilson Fisk. Like, it's wild. It's wild. Like, he just winds people up. And it's interesting because I do love a villain like that's kind of like he's almost Bane-esque in that sense of he's this physical monstrosity that will overpower you, but at the same time,
but it's the mental game you've really got to worry about.
He will outplay you in chess in a heartbeat. Like, it's very interesting the way his character is.
I agree with you. He is a very Bane-esque character. Yeah, Fisk is just so dangerous because, I mean, people are understandably intimidated by the physical prowess and the fact that, like, you got to be careful because that's somewhere the anger can flip to aggression real quick on you to the point where it's like seemingly instantaneous, invisible. On the flip side, you can become so worried about that piece that you completely miss the fact that he's doing terrible things to you mentally, intellectually, manipulating things. And he's definitely a really tough one, a tough opponent to come across, to come up against. And Matt, Matt's intelligent and he has honed a lot of skills. And look, he's got all that anger raging, and he's not killing people all the time like Frank Castle. So, in a lot of ways, he has really honed a lot of different skills to try and make sure that he stays on the right side of the vigilante stuff. But man, this is a particularly tricky bad guy for him to come up against because it's going to hit on all his weak points for sure.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's definitely interesting kind of seeing all these things come together. And then, one of the things you see with Matt as things kind of go on in his relationship, you really see it highlighted how Fisk gets to him. He really gets to him, and he's not able to find a way to get his allies on his own side. He just becomes more and more reactive to what Fisk is doing. And so the people around him are feeling disconnected from him and more in allegiance with Fisk in some ways, depending on who you're talking about, just because Matt's just breaking down from the inside out.
And it's because Fisk rules by fear. He literally pulled the head of the police in there and was like, hey, all you cops, look at what happens if you go against me.
Yeah.
And all the cops watched that happen. And so he truly does rule with fear. Same thing with the gangs. It's like the gangs that he had, it's like, oh, you're not going to pay your cut? Oh, you're going to try and take me out? Yeah. I'll take you out first. And so he has an two-sided empire to run. And meanwhile, Matt's going to have to go back to playing both sides of the ball. He's going to have to be Daredevil, but he's also going to have to be Matt Murdock, attorney at law, if he's going to get this done. Because you can't just go beat up the mayor of New York.
Yeah.
You can't do that. It's going to take a lot more. And this is a dirtier version of Superman and Lex Luthor. That's what it is. It's a grittier version of that, because it's like, okay, I can't just take him out right because he's in the limelight and he's corrupt. I'm going to have to do this by the books. I'm going to have to go after Al Capone for tax evasion because it's not going to happen any other way. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very interested to see how this turns out, because, and of course, Poindexter's still out there. Bullseye's still out there. We don't know what his motive is. He is just truly the loosest of loose cannons. And I have to comment on how he escaped Matt Murdock punching him and then him using the tooth that Matt Murdock knocked out to escape. This is wonderful. Like, I absolutely, yeah.
That was one of those just like chef's kiss comic book moments.
It was. That's like, that was such good writing. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what they do with the next season, which comes out like next year. They're not going to make us wait. Yeah, they're not going to make us wait. It comes out like...
Good, because I'm not going to remember everything that happened.
Yeah.
Case in point from last time.
I want to say they've already filmed it. Like, it comes out March of next year.
Nice. Okay. I like when I have to wait like too terribly long.
And I think they're doing like, what is it? A Punisher Christmas special.
God, yes.
Yeah, I know.
Dude, are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
We are so recording about that.
Yes, we absolutely are.
That has me excited.
Thanks for nerding out with us. I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown.
And I'm educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Check out my TV and movie reviews on YouTube at Team JBS. Check out our website at bat-therapy.com, our Bat Therapy YouTube channel, and follow us on social media. And don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/battherapy. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.